Welcome to Modern Code Lab. In this video, we are just talking about Go basics. If you are a junior developer and if you want to start your journey as a software engineer in Golang, so this is the best video for that. So let's get into this. So in this video, what are we going to cover? So what are we just building today? We are just going to discuss each and every concept at a time. And we also do some practical things in order to cover what we have learned. And also finally, we will just create a mini application which cover all these sections which we are going to cover in this video. So first of all, we'll go with variables and types, followed by functions, then after control flow statements, slices and maps, structs and methods, and finally we are going to create a mini application which will cover each and everything that we have learned, right? So let's start with variables and types. So what do you mean by a variable? A variable is just a named memory allocation in order to store some values. Let's say if you want to store any value while developing your application, you need some memory, right? But everything that stores on the computer stores in binary. So we are unable to remember those binary digits in order to access that value from that memory. So what are we going to do is we are just going to assign a name for that, which we call it as like a variable. In Golang, there are three ways to initialize a value or else declare a variable, right? The very first method is to use var, which is explicit. Using var keyword, what you can do is you can just initialize a value or else you can just declare a variable with its specific type. When it comes to the second one, which is short, we'll use a syntax called colon equal to. Based on that one, we will be able to implicitly, like the Go itself will identify based on the value that you are assigning to the variable. It will automatically take its time. And the third one is to use the const keyword. If you are having any constants, if you want to have in your application, then we have to use this keyword. So when it comes to var, we have to use it when we are having any package level variables which are at the global scope. And if we are having that there is a zero value matters, so then we have to go for var. And if you want to have some temporary variables, let's say in functions, if you want to do some calculations, you need some variables to store some temp values, so then you can just directly go with the short syntax. And if you're having any constants that if the value should not be get changed, so then we have to go for the const keyword, right? So when it comes to zero values, when you're declaring with var, Go always initializes. It will not having any kind of garbage values, and there is no undefined, and there are no surprises as well. Every variable has a meaningful starting value. So when you are declaring a variable with int 8 and int 64, the default value will be 0. And if you are declaring any decimal values like float 32 and float 64, it will initialize with 0.0. If it is string, you will be having an empty string. If it is a boolean, then the default value will be false. And if you are declaring any pointer or else any map or else any slice, the initial value of those things will be considered as like nil. So we are just going to see all these things in practical. What we are going to do is we just going to open VS Code. You have to just create main.go file. Make sure you have Go installed in your computer. If not, you can just go to the official website and you can just follow the steps. It's very simple to install Golang in your current. It is Windows or Linux. You might be like checking based on your system configuration. What we have to do is we have to just run main.go. So this is my VS Code. In this, I have some few folders which I have created earlier. So these are the concepts which are going to cover in this entire video. So let's start with variables, right? I've just created a folder called variables. In that, I have a file called main.go, which is this one. So before that, if you want to check if the Go is installed in a machine, what you have to do is just open any terminal, okay, and just run Go version. You have to see this thing, like the version which I'm currently using is Go 1.21. So you have the latest version as well, but I'm currently using with 1.21. Okay. So let's start with variables as I mentioned. So we have discussed three ways to initialize a variable, right? Using the var keyword, which is explicit, you need to mention the type, and which is the next one is short syntax using colon equal to, which is a short declaration and which is most commonly used. If you want to have some immediate values to your variables, you can just use this thing. And if you want to declare any kind of a variable which has some constant value and it should not be get changed during the compile time or else during the runtime, we have to use the const keyword. So here I've just created two variables, which is app name and port, in which I have just declared the type also. For the app name, I have declared as like string, the value that is develop.go, and port, it is an integer. I have just given 8080. And you can do the same thing, okay, by using the short syntax as well. If there is only zero values exist, and if you want to have those things, if you don't want any unknown panics, and if you don't want to crash your application, it's better to use var if the value is unknown to you. And if you are accepting a particular value with a specific type, then I would say to initialize that variable using var and specify the type. So coming to the next declaration, like the next way, short declaration, you have just created a name by using colon equal to, I have just given my name, Ajay. and score like the integer itself, the float, I mean like 88, 98.5. And these are the constants which are like max retries, which is equal to 3. Okay, now coming to the multi-assign. Like in compared to other languages, if you want to declare any variable and if you want to assign values, you need to do at each line. In C language, if you're familiar with, if you want to declare any kind of a value, then you need to do it on each line, right? But using this multi-assign, like as you can see in this example, I have X, I have Y. The value of X is 10, the value of Y is 20. And if you want to reassign these values, if you want to shift these values, or else if you want to swap them, in C language or else in C++, you need to have a temporary variable. But using this multi-assign feature in Golang, you can just easily swap the values, okay, without having the temporary variable. Now the value of X will be Y, and the value of Y would be X. So easily the values will be get swapped here. So for confirmation, we'll just go run. This is a command in order to run your like the Go files. I'll just go to the variables folder and I'll have my in.go and I'll just run it. As you can see, the values that we have declared using the var keyword has been printed. Like the develop.go is a string and the port is 8080. And when it comes to the name, the short declaration, name and score, the respective values have been given. And before, and if you see in the multi-assign, like if you have the X value as like 10 and Y value as 20, after this line, the values has been swapped, right? So the X value has become 20, the Y value has become, and of course the constant value which is max retries, this is equal to 3. So this is about variables. So these are the very basic foundation for every programming language. So it's not very specifically to Golang. If you're learning any programming language like C, C++ or Java, variables and types are everywhere. So this is the way of handling variables and types in Golang. Next, we'll jump into the next topic, which is functions. So what do you mean by a function, right? So like a function is nothing but a specific set of instructions in order to do some particular work, right? As you can see in the example that we have seen right now, okay, we have this main function, right? What is main? Main is also a function which is having some set of instructions in order to perform some functionality, right? So let's say I'm just building an application. So main function is the entry point, right? So when you're executing this command, go run main.go, okay, the instructions which are declared in this main function will be executed one by one, or else parallelly also. That's a different thing, right? But when you're just running this command, all the instructions that are mentioned in this main function will be triggered. So this is the go's entry point when you're executing any file, right? Now, let's say I'm just building any application, and if there are thousands of lines that I've written here, so I've just wanted to split them. Like it's very difficult for the other developer to learn or else to assume. Like it's very difficult to understand what actually I've written because it's a plenty of code. So what we have to do is we need to split the code. How you can split the code? How you can remove the instructions and place it somewhere, but you want the exact functionality to be happen. So in that case, we will be able to use functions. A function is nothing but a set of instructions which are mentioned in order to perform a certain functionality. So how do you declare a function? What is a function anatomy, right? So when you are declaring a function, you will be having a keyword with the func, and you will be naming the keyword like divide in this case, like this is the name, and there are parameters. So every function is having some set of instructions and it will be performing some function. To perform that functionality, will it require any parameters? Will it require any values to perform? So you cannot just write like the entire things, like in the main function there are no parameters, right? But this is the entry point, we are going to declare in that. But in middle of your code, if you are calling any other function, and below that you will be having some other instructions as well. From that functionality to the next line, so there need to be a connection, right? So that will be maintained, okay, based on these parameters. So in this case, I have just given A and B, which are the type of float 64, okay? And finally, the return types. Float 64 is the return type and also the error. So we are just going to talk this error in a detailed way, okay? So let's just come again, like if you want to declare any function, you have to use a keyword called func, the name, which is called as like divide, and the parameters which are required to perform that functionality in order to use in your set of instructions. And finally, the return types, right? You can have one single return and you can have some multiple returns in which you are having value and error. So mostly we prefer to use multiple returns. And we'll also see what does a named returns means and also the first class returns. We'll just see all those things in the example, right? In the multiple returns, first of all, we'll just go to the functions folder and we'll just see what is written there. Okay, so we have the same example, right? We have the function func keyword, we have the divide, the name of the function, and there are two parameters, which is a and b. Okay, and next we also have the return types like the float 64 and the error, right? So now in the main function, I'm just calling this divide function. I'm passing the parameters 10 and 3. Let's say if I'm just giving 10 and 3 as the parameters, okay, what it is going to do is it is going to first check the error. Like what are the possibilities? In Golang, we don't have exceptions. We don't have exception handlings. But Go is a error first code, right? If you're writing any code in Golang, it should be error proof. So first of all, the priority should be given for the error, then after the result. So that's why, as I mentioned here, multiple returns the Go error pattern. So this is not any optional syntax. This is how Go handles all errors, right? What is an error? Error is a value. It's not an exception. It's just another return value in your handler, right? So if the error is nil, that means no error. And the very most thing that you need to remember is that you should not ignore that. See, whatever the functions that are declared, or else what are the functions that are there in the Go standard library, every function follows this pattern. There will be a result as a parameter, as a return type, and also there will be an error. Okay, so first of all, we need to check the error, right? We have to give the priority for that. If the error is nil, then only we have to consider the result, right? So here in this case, I'm just calling the divide function. I'm passing two parameters. So if you're performing a divide functionality, so what would be the edge cases? Like what would be the errors that might occur? Okay, if the denominator is 0, I'm considering the b as my denominator. If b is equal to 0, so then I cannot perform the dividend. I cannot perform the divide functionality, right? I cannot perform that operation. So I need to check. There is an error that might occur if the b value is 0. So I need to check the error first. So here in this case, I've just declared a condition. I've just written a condition that if b is equal to 0, I'm just returning a value called 0, right? And also returning an error, which is errors.new, errors, which is nothing but a package. In that, I'm just creating a new error, and then the error message is cannot divide by 0, right? Now, in this case, if the b value is not 0, then I'm performing the divide operation, and I'm just doing a/b. Of course, the value is getting divided, and I'm just returning a nil value in the error. As you can see, the first return type is the result, and the last return type, okay, which is the error. If the b value is 0, nothing but the denominator, you have to return an error. If not, you need to return the exact result. So while I'm just calling that divide function in my main function, I'm just considering the error also. So before using the result in the next line, I'm just first giving the priority to the error. If there is an error, just log it immediately. Just crash the program, or else just end here. Or else if I just want, if I can also take this error to the next level. If I'm having some stack of operations, suppose if one function is calling another function, that function is calling another function. In function 3, let's say function 1, function 2, function 3. If function 3 is returning an error, I'll just take it to function 2. From there, I'll just return the function to function 1. So that there will be a chain and there will be a synchronization when it comes to error handling. So this is the best way of performing error handling in Golang, right? So I'm first checking the error. If the error is there, I'm just crashing the program, or else I'm just doing another, I'm just logging something, etc. If not, I'm just printing the result, right? So we'll just see this also in action. Like I'll just go to Go run. I'll go to the functions folder, main.go, and click on enter. As you can see, the output that is 3.33, the value that is getting divided by, right? 10 divided by 3, 3.33, right? Now let's do one thing. We'll just remove the b value as 0. Let's just change the value from b to 0, right? We are just trying to check the error, whether it is throwing an error or not, right? So as you can see, I've just changed the denominator as 0. Now just run the program. Go run functions main.go. Okay. As you can see, there is an error. There is an error that I'm just getting, which I've declared here right now. Cannot divide by 0. So these are the logs that is very, very important when you are declaring, when you are creating any big application, and if there is a lots of user base, if there are 10 million users or more than that, it's very important for us to understand what is the error based on these logs. As you can see, I've just created a log that it cannot be divided by 0. It's also mentioning the details as well. As you can see, I'm just doing log.fatal, which will actually exit the program. Or let's say I can also just print the error also, and I can just happily, what you can say, I can just execute the program. As you can see, the value is returning as 0. In the result, I'm just throwing an error, but also I'm just returning the value as 0. So that 0 will be get printed. I need not to just crash my program, right? I'll just error. That's all, right? So let's run this again. As you can see, the error is cannot be divided by 0, and also I'm getting the value which is 0.0. So this is a different way of handling it, right? If the error is not that much bigger, and if it is not required to crash the program or else to exit the program function by just adding a log, you can just simply like safely run your program. But the value that you're getting is 0. You need to be careful when you're dealing with these kind of values, right? So now we have just discussed about functions in a regular way, right? We have to declare the function using the func keyword, the name, and also followed by the parameters, and also the return types. And also we also discussed about how to handle the error. Go is having the error first approach. So first of all, we need to check the error, then take the result as your consideration, right? Now, when it comes to these parameters, in this example, we have a comma b as our default parameters, right? So this is a static number of parameters that I have just declared here. So what if there is a situation that I need to have some multiple parameters, but I don't know the exact number? So how many it might be? Might be 2, 3, 4, etc. So let's take an example of this function, like the func sum. Here I've just declared a variable, the parameter called as nums, okay? But instead of writing just int, I've just added these 3 dots. So what does it mean? It means variadic, right? The parameters that you're using in this function are variadic. That means the number of parameters in this case of this function might be multiple. It can vary, right? So when I'm just calling this function, as you can see in the line 34, I'm just printing the value and I'm calling the function inside of it, and I'm just giving some random values. Okay, instead of like 2, 4, what it might be, I'm just giving some random values, right? I can just give 5, I can just give 20, I can just give any values. So what the function is going to do, first of all, it is just declaring a variable, okay, and initializing the value to 0 using the short syntax. Here you don't need to declare a variable called as like var until and unless if it is necessary for you. Suppose if this function is very large, and if you want to have a global scope, and where the value is, of course, you need to have some 0 initialization, right? So then you can just use var. Otherwise, it's very simple to use the short syntax like colon equal to. So I've just declared a variable called total equals to 0. Okay. Here I've just created a for loop. In that I'm just iterating to the numbers, right? So whatever the numbers that I've given here, I'm just going to iterate each and every one of them. Okay. We'll just talk about functions later in this video. Okay. So as of now, just remember that I'm just iterating to each and every value which I'm giving in the nums, like in the numbers, right? So whatever the value that I'm getting from this numbers, I'm just appending it. Instead of appending, I'm also doing an operation called like plus equal to. That means if you can elaborate this one, I'm just doing this one. Total is equal to total plus n value. Okay. So initially the total value will be 0. Okay. While I'm iterating to each and every number, okay, let's say I have 1, 2, let's easy to take this example like 1, 3, right? So the values are like 1, 2, 3, right? In the nums, the values that I'm just passing here right now. Nums has these values. Now, while I'm just iterating to each and every value, okay, first the n value will be 1, okay, and the total value is initialized to 0. So the total will be reinitialized with the updated value of the summation of the total value, existing total value, and the n value. As you can see in the first iteration, total is how much? 0, and the n value is 1. So you'll get the value as like 1. After this particular iteration, after iterating to the first value, the total value will be get changed to 1, right? And in the second iteration, n will be become to 2, right? So total value is, after the previous operation, it becomes 1. So total equal to 1 plus 2, which is equal to 3, right? After the second iteration, when the value reaches to 2, the total value becomes 3. And finally, when it becomes to 3, okay, we'll just add 3 plus 3, and the final total value will be 6. So after doing iteration for each and every value, and I'm performing this operation, the total value from 0, it will be get changed. So let's just execute this program right now, right? I'll just run go run functions main.go. Okay. As you can see, the value is 0.00. So yeah, we are just getting the value as 6, but before that we are also having the result that is getting printed, which is 0.00. Why? Because we are also getting the error that It cannot be divided by 0. Let's just comment this one. Okay. Also ignore this result as well as of now. If you want to ignore this variable, you just keep an underscore over there. Okay. So just go run functions main.go. As you can see, I'm also getting the error, but because the denominator is 0, I'm just printing this error. And also I'm getting the value as like 6. So this is the way you will be handling. This is the way you are just going to handle uh, the functions and also the variadic operators in function, right? Next, are we are missing something? Yes, we are just going to discuss about one more thing, which is the named returns. Okay, so what do you mean by named returns? Let's say like in this example, I'm just returning a variable as a return type and also as a result, which is what do you say, an integer. So when it comes to named returns, what I can do is instead of just keeping it as like total, sorry, int, I can just write as like total int. Okay, and I don't want to declare this variable. So this is nothing but your named returns, right? So if you want to have some value that has to be a return type, and if you don't want to change them, then you can just simply declare the variable right here itself. Okay, so that you need not to initialize it again in the function. Okay, and if you just run the program again, like go run functions main.go, you will also see the same one, right? So this is what. And coming to the next one, like the first class functions, pass functions around. Okay, so let's say now I'm just having this some function which I'm calling inside of a println function, right? Right. So this is an example of a named return. So when you are having a function, okay, in the parameter, instead of having some regular parameters like integer, float, and like pointer levels, anything, okay, you can also pass a function as a parameter. As you can see, println is a function where it will do the print functionality, right? Here, this in the println function, it is also calling another function which is println. In that, it is performing an operation, right? It is just taking a new printer and just it is performing some operations. But here, as you can see, that in the function, you are just passing another function. So that's this case. I can also do like this also. Like I can also do result equal to sum of 1 comma 2 comma 3, and I can just directly print the result here, right? So this is a way of doing it. But you can also do it in the different way also. You can just pass the function instead of a function. It will do the rest of the things as usual, right? So in this part of this video, we have just covered two things: variables and types, and also functions. In the next coming part, I mean part 2, we will be covering the rest of the topics like the control flow statements, slices and maps, and structs and methods, and also the final application which will cover everything. So stay tuned, just like and subscribe to this channel, and also feel free to just comment if you have any doubts in the comment section. I'll be watching. Thank you.